Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Hopefully, everybody had a great weekend. Back to market action we go. We had a gap higher today, and then we did sell off, and then we actually kind of chopped sideways, making it back to the flat line. And then towards the end of the day, the sell button was jammed. The last 10 minutes, we really saw selling pressure come in, as we're seeing right now. And it likely is because we've got inflation data that's going to be released tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning. So investors are preparing for the worst, it looks like, for the time being, and hitting the take profit button, selling the markets. So be prepared. Tomorrow morning, we could still have volatility starting at 8:30 in the morning with that inflation data when it hits the market. So let's jump into what's been moving today in the market summary board. As you see here, we've got the Dow Jones now down 0.73%, Nasdaq now down 0.21%, S&P 500 down 0.53%, U.S. oil slight rebound, now up 1.07%. Gold is now down 1.37%. And Bitcoin is now retreating back after a nice pop recently, but still all the while pulling back for the day, down 0.42%. All right, so let's jump into the S&P 500 heat map. You see here, we've got a lot of red now going on the screen. It wasn't like this just a moment ago. We were tailing off towards the end of the day, but the selling pressure really picked up right before I got on air today. So we see NVIDIA down 0.59%, Apple down 1.11%, AVGO down 0.52%, Amazon's down 0.86%, ExxonMobil down 0.86%. The one lone shining star over here is Tesla, up 2.94%. We're going to take a look at that chart here in a few moments and see that it actually has a potential breakout scenario amongst all this red and turmoil that's starting to take over the markets. So let's jump into S&P 500. And as you see here, really not too much has changed. Even though we're talking about all the selling pressure that's hitting the markets, this is a bearish consolidation pattern. Down move and all inside bar bearish consolidation. So there's still, the daily chart implies more downside is still likely to come. Let's get into the 10-minute chart so you can see what I was talking about. We had price action open up today. We gapped higher, then we retreated, went negative slightly, then pushed higher on the markets. It was looking like we were going to start jamming, pushing up to new all-time highs, potentially for another new close near all-time highs. But no, right about 12 o'clock, everything changed in the markets, and we really didn't see a substantial bounce or a sustainable bounce the whole rest of the afternoon. As you see here, the last 10-minute candle really hitting on that selling pressure, accelerating that move to the downside. So if we do have a sell-off in the near term, the next level of support is going to be down here at 61.46, followed by 6,051. Be watching these levels on the chart, because if and when price comes down to the 6,000 level, there likely will be some buy the dippers in this area should we get a steep sell-off in the coming weeks. Next up, the Qs. The Qs here had a nice push higher today, but then started reversing a lot of its gains, much like what we saw in the S&P 500. You can see here that selling pressure really started around noon and then just put price down on the charts as we see here. And if we go back out on the daily chart, you can see it's all the story on the Qs being squeezed within these trend lines. Now, I did draw a new one today from this pivot high on Monday, December 16th, and I connected it over to the pivot high on July 31st. And you can see that's exactly where price went to today, pierced it ever so slightly before selling off right there about 12 noon, pulling price back in. Now, if we jam against this trend line more often, then that weakens it and allows for a potential break to the move higher. However, with what's going on in the S&P 500, it doesn't look like that's going to be a possibility for the Qs, at least in the near term. We'll see if that inflation data comes out positive, and then likely we could push higher on the markets. Next up, the SMH. SMH, as I've mentioned over the last week or so, we've really been chopping around this inclining parallel channel. Today, we were securely above inside that parallel channel, ultimately sold off throughout the course of the day, and then ended up closing underneath. So this still is an area of resistance that we will have to fight to get through with the SMH. We have made several attempts. As I've stated in past shows, this is a leading indicator. So be watching SMH. If we break above, confirm, and move into the parallel, we likely, with the rest of the markets, are going to be pushing higher. Ultimately, this is still getting rejected, telling me the likelihood for SMH to go down is actually higher than breaking into that parallel. For support down here at 265. IWM, as you see here, is trailing along this declining trend line currently, acting as support. This one big red candle gives a little caution for me with the IWM, as that candle is going to be controlling price moving forward, at least for the very immediate near term. That could send price down underneath this declining trend line, which would then bring IWM down vulnerable for a little bit more downside, potentially to this 211.15. As long as we stay maintained above this declining trend line, we have an opportunity to go tag the next resistance at 229.30. So tomorrow's inflation data will be critical. Where does price end up with IWM, above or below this declining trend line? Next up, Bitcoin. You see here, Bitcoin did spike up today, got to a high of 122,319. Nice push for it, but look where it was rejected. Right here at this inclining top end of the parallel channel. So we have price comfortably down here currently at 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see by 8 o'clock if we do end up closing around this range. If so, the most immediate near-term support is going to be on this declining trend line for Bitcoin. If you see here, it's right around $116,000. This will be a minor support area on the charts there for Bitcoin. Next up, we've got gold. Gold, as you see here, had price try to poke above at the end of last week, and then we ultimately are getting rejected from this wedge pattern in this top declining trend line that you see here on the charts. So where does that lead us? Really not too much new for gold, except for we've been consolidating up here at the top of the charts in a bullish manner for several weeks now, albeit we do have a major topping tail here on the charts that still hasn't been taken out. Now, remember, I was talking about this in April, guys. Like when we made this topping tail, that was telling me price on gold likely wasn't going to be going any higher. I had people talking, making comments like, Drew, you're so off on gold, talking on comments on this show and saying, what are you doing? Gold's just going to keep ripping higher. Well, the chart told me it wasn't going to be going higher simply because we have a daily and weekly topping tail, both of which are very negative signs on the chart for near to midterm price action. So far, that's been correct. Now, gold's been bubbling up, trying to get higher, but those topping tails in place are really holding price down on this chart. Quite remarkable and really amazing to see every single time it happens. So ultimately on gold, next area of support to watch is going to be right here at 32.96 on this inclining trend line. Keep in mind, either side now can be broken. We've hit each side several times. So we'll be watching this area for at least a minor support, but it eventually can bust through. If so, next area of support is going to be roughly right around 3,100 on the chart of gold. Next up, silver also saw selling pressure today. It does make sense. This chart has really remained up here on the higher ends of most recent price history for quite a while. Silver's had a nice bounce up off the first support. This area will still be support on the way down. However, it will be minor support at 36.58. Be watching 34.86 for a more solid level of support should and if price comes down into that area on silver. Next up, we've got U.S. oil. As you saw here, we really did poke up just a little bit today. All in all, we're still in bearish consolidation with this price action of the bear flag has triggered. Price today is closing just at the bottom end of the price candle here on June 24th. Be watching tomorrow if we have price come back up into that range. That would be slightly bullish. It wouldn't flip this from bearish to bullish altogether, but that would be slightly near-term bullish if we get price action back within trading in this candle range. Otherwise, the target for the downside, and it still is the target for a bear flag fall, will be at $59 on the charts. Next up, we've got Nat Gas. Nat Gas did make a nice move up today from its lows, albeit it is having a negative day, but notice where price did catch support, and it's this declining trend line. So for right now with the price on Nat Gas, this declining trend line is really holding price in check and really keeping it afloat. Notice the close too is going to be right here amongst the other candles. All in all, still bearish consolidation, pointing towards further downside down here at $2.55. But you got to give credit to this declining trend line for now has saved price yet again on the chart of Nat Gas. Next up, Ethereum. Guys, this has been a great breakout for Ethereum over the weekend. Price action, as you see here on Friday night, poked above 4,000, then accelerated on Saturday. Notice where price went to. It went to this inclining trend line. You can see this drawn here on the chart. Now, this is going to be a great learning lesson for everybody too. What happened over the weekend accomplished a significant feat on the chart of Ethereum. And what I'm talking about is an inverse head and shoulders measured move. So you can see this right here. I've got a declining trend line right here on the charts. Let me expand it out for you just a little bit. This declining trend line provides us with a measured move. And you can see this from the very bottom of the head, which this is the head, the left shoulder's right here, the head, and then the right shoulder of that inverse head and shoulders pattern. Watch how you can measure this out and find a target for that move. And you can see it's right up here, $4,071 right here. And price accelerated through that area over the weekend. Great move for Ethereum. Fantastic recovery from price action down here, sub $1,600. Now over $4,200. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Either which way you look at it, fantastic. However, this is a rapid ascent on this crypto. Now, Ethereum can still go higher. We're talking about the all-time highs aren't far away. 48.67 as you see up here on the chart. However, this accelerated move and this overbought nature on the RSI and the divergence going on here on the daily RSI all tells me Ethereum is likely going to be coming back in the near term. It could eventually go back to this all-time highs, but in the near term, I'm watching first levels of support appears to 4,000. That's going to be an aggressive level, roughly around $3,900. A more conservative entry is going to be along this declining trend line. And that declining trend line was taken right near the pivot all-time highs back in December of 2021, strung out through the other pivots. And you can see here that this trend line roughly is around $3,600 to $3,500 whenever price does meet up with that trend line. That would be the conservative area to start entering into Ethereum for a regain momentum bounce play on that chart. Still ultimately awesome to see on Ethereum reaching that measured move. Now, next up, we've got Micron. Micron really held up SMH today. SMH was positive for the majority of the day, and mainly because of this stock right here pushing up, as you see, up 4.09%. So where is price going to go from this point? Well, a little lesson in technical analysis. There's a couple things we can do to find this out, and we can find out why price stopped here today. But first, let's figure out where the potential next move of Micron might be. I isolate down this pivot right here, connect a trend line over to that pivot, and then I have that trend line extend out to the very next significant pivot level on the chart. So right now that tells me if Micron continues up roughly to $132.50, that area will be a big test for Micron to get through in the most immediate near term. Notice this extended move that's occurred here on the chart. So we'll have a little resistance at this pivot high, but even more solid resistance on this inclining trend line. All right, so now that tells us where the next stop is. How can we find out where price stopped today? Simple enough. Another trend line, guys. Take it over from pivot high here, connect it over to this main pivot. And you can see right here, if I get right there at the top, boom, you can see price action today pierced this declining trend line, which now is the most immediate level of resistance on the chart. So for tomorrow on Micron, if you're a Micron bull, you want to see price get above this declining trend line. If it gets above that declining trend line, currently right around 126.57, that will open the door for more upside to the next resistance target at this inclining trend line, roughly at $132.66. Next up, Monday. We had Monday report earnings today. On Monday, a double beat too, up 27% on earnings per share and 1.86% on revenue. Great beat for it, but its guidance is faltering. So what happened? The stock plummeted. Investors really hit the sell button. There was lots of levels of support that price gapped over today. And even this strong declining trend line, price action tried to stay up here near it for most of the day, but ultimately failed and started sending price lower, even lower than this next significant level at 176.36. Now, this area is very solid support for Monday. I'll likely see with such a big big drop that we've seen, we're likely going to see whether price action tomorrow or the following day rebounds up to at least this declining trend line, currently around 186.20. So be watching for any sort of bounce on Monday to take us to that declining trend line, but then the selling pressure could resume from there. Next support beyond this is down at 131.16. So be careful investing a steep drop like this, but usually steep drops result in significant rebounds too. So this is a great opportunity if you're wanting to inch in small positions and stagger out those adds on the way down, getting you a great average for that rebound opportunity play up to that declining trend line. Next up, we've got Tesla. Tesla, as you see here, we've got a wedge pattern on the screen here for Tesla containing most of its daily price action most of it for all of 2025. And we see here today, price action pushed up above this declining trend line. That now makes Tesla on breakout watch. Now, we did sell off a lot from its highs today, a significant amount. We were up here above 345. Now we're closing at 339 after hours, trading underneath that even too. So to get a confirming move for Tesla to remain in this bullish stance, we need to get a close above this high in the next couple trading days. If that happens, then this declining trend line is support and opens the door for a move up to 383.76. If we don't get a close above this candle, this could end up being a bull trap scenario. So make sure we get that confirmation. If once we get that confirmation, that then shifts probabilities heavily towards Tesla moving up on this chart. So just pay attention to tomorrow's price action. Will give us a lot of insight for near-term future on Tesla. All right, next up, we've got SE is reporting earnings tomorrow morning before the bell. And you can see here, price action today has fallen a little bit on the charts, but ultimately this move up, this is a little bit bearish with this big red candle down, but all of this collectively, if I flip it over to the weekly chart, that's all just consolidation in this area. It could be gearing up for another move higher on the chart. So be watching for that. Next resistance and most immediate resistance is this declining trend line right at 167.91. Should it get above that area, we could be moving up to this next resistance, roughly around $200 on SE. To the downside, this is a good day trading level. Be watching around 140 and 1 cent, followed by a more swing trading level at $119.82. Next up, we've got Rigetti. Rigetti is reporting earnings after the bell tomorrow. So I've got some levels for you. Now, Rigetti is a big mover. Be careful on Rigetti. First resistance I'm watching for any potential shorting opportunities is going to be up here at $19.64. This first level of support down here would be more of a day trading level, $13.37. Then the following two would be more swing trading levels at $12.13 and $10.88. So be watching price action tomorrow. Rigetti should deliver, as it has all of this year, a lot of volatility on the charts. Next up, we've got Cava. And finally, we've got Cava. As you see here, Cava has been trying to break out from this declining trend line and really has since failed. It just keeps getting rejected, and rejected. All right. So if Cava does continue down with earnings, we do have a first level of support right here at this gap fill. Gap fill is going to be at $77.89. Be watching that for a potential day trade opportunity, as well as a big time bottom down here, right roughly at $72.16. A break of that would be significant for Cava, as this is larger term time frame. This is a big move down and sideways consolidation. That's all bearish. So if we get underneath this horizontal trend line, that could be very bearish in the midterm for Cava. So be watching that for tomorrow's price action. Ultimately, when prices come down to it before, we've received beautiful bounces up on the chart. And that's what I anticipate should we get a sharp sell right into that area tomorrow. All right, guys, that's a lot of information. We got earnings data, we got price movement, we got potential breakouts on the scenario. Ethereum needs to come back in. Guys, a lot of levels to pay attention to, many of which you can be profitable on just by watching the information on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to being back here tomorrow and bringing you guys some great trading action. Until then, I'll see you on the charts. Have a good one.